Do you want to live a life of freedom and adventure? Are you wanting more than the daily grind? Me too. Welcome to the EMMA LOVELL Show, a place where we talk about living a life you love now. I'm your host, Emma Lovell, and my number one value is freedom. I've spent the last 14 years running a business and traveling the world, and now I take my husband and toddler along for the adventure too. It's possible, and I know you can create a life doing what you truly love as well. This podcast will inspire, motivate, and encourage you to go after your dreams, to create a life you love and to live it now, not wait for retirement or someday in the future. I'll be sharing episodes weekly about how I harmonize business, travel, and self-care. I'll also bring on incredible guests to share their journeys, the wins, the challenges, and how they're creating a life they love. Let's jump in and get dreaming. This is a space for you to manifest a life you love. I would like to acknowledge and recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of this place, now known as Australia. I am grateful for the continuing care of the land, waterways and skies where I work, live, listen, learn and play. From here on Yugambeh country and from wherever you are listening, I pay my respects to the elders past and present. Welcome to the podcast today. I have with me the lovely Stacey Webb.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, because I've been a fan of your podcast for a very long time and I feel very privileged to now be a guest on one.
Well, and I know you actually listen because you actually talked to me about actual things I said. So you're like, oh, wow.
For a very long time, yes.
People are actually listening, because sometimes, you just feel like you're talking into the ether. So thank you for responding. And to anyone who's listening today, please send us messages, because we love this conversation, but we want to hear from you and hear what helped you or what you want to hear more of. So please reach out to me or Stacey. We'll have all the links in the show notes. But first and foremost, tell us, Stacey, who are you?
Well, my name is Stacey Webb, and I guess first and foremost, imperfectly perfect human. It's something that as a recovering perfectionist, it's been a big thing. But my service to the world is as an intuitive somatic mentor and an author, and I support people on their healing journey through the lens of the nervous system, and really bringing support and allowing them to find safety within themselves to live a life that they want, that they desire, knowing that they can still live even though they may have experienced some trauma or stress or fear in the past. And when we do that, we also strengthen our intuition, and we can really access a higher frequency when we support and nourish our nervous system. And so I love blending both of those together and doing that. So I do that in my services, one-on-one sessions, but I also do it in my writing as well. Yeah.
And you've got at least one book behind you. So tell us about your books. That's what we connected over, being authors.
Yes. So I've 3 books. My 3rd book is coming out next month in April. So I started, my first book was The Intuitive Detective, and that was in 2021. My Beautiful Baby is your first one. And my second one is Foundations of Tapping, inviting EFT and other tapping practices into your life. And that came out in 2023. And my current one that will be coming out next month is Embodied Grace, Trusting Yourself, Healing Deeply, Expanding Fully.
I feel like that's really where we're at. And something I've been working on is that intuition. And you just don't realize how much. And I think it's like people think you're intuitive or you're not. And it's like,
yes,
you're psychics and you woo, or you're not.
Yeah. And the most beautiful part is that we are all intuitive. Intuition is innate within all of us. It's so much more than psychics, right? But that's the first thing we think of because of this clairvoyance, clear seeing. But there's actually many different ways that we can receive our intuition. And we have to think of our intuition like a muscle. We have to practice and practice and practice and strengthen the muscle. We don't just go into a gym and do a deadlift of 100 kilos without actually doing any warm-up or any practicing to getting up to that weight if we've never done that before. And it's the same thing with our intuition. If we support and nourish our nervous system to be able to have that awareness as to the states of our nervous system and where we are, acknowledging and having that awareness of our subconscious fears that come up, we can also allow ourselves to listen to our intuition, to trust it and follow it. And each time we follow our intuition, we will strengthen the frequency of it, and it will become easier to translate what it's saying to us because we're starting to understand how it is for us that we receive our intuition. Yeah. And then all the different types might start to blend together, but there'll always be one that we're most dominant at, even if it's just for a millisecond before everything else. But it's this beautiful way of we can actually access this information within ourselves. It's just a matter of harnessing that support to ourselves and practicing.
Yeah, totally. I have to show you, I've got this little reminder of my intuition, and that's I've got this little owl. So I actually have a magnet on the wall as well, but my client got me this in India because last year you heard the episode I talked about, I had a difficult time with my son in childcare, and what I'm most upset about was that I didn't trust my intuition. And it's just now I have this like case study of when I knew that there was something that wasn't right. And I had that need to pull him away and to protect him and to like take him out of that environment. But everyone else told me like, no, 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 no. And so funnily enough, like the night everything sort of happened, there was an owl on the wire. And then I looked up the meaning of owls, and it's like hidden truths, and it is about intuition. And then what I realized as well was that my son had been seeing an owl at the childcare center in the tree. And and so this owl came up, and then I started telling this story. And so then while we were in India, a few of my clients brought me the owl, and it's like, I'm just now calling it my owl wisdom. And it's like,
I love
what does the owl need to tell me? And, owls also do signify that wisdom. And I think it is a little bit of, I don't know if you find this, Stacey, but I guess as we get older, I feel like young children, like I see my son, like they have it, and then it gets drummed out of us. And then it's like, as you get older, you come back to it because you don't care anymore. I don't know.
Definitely. I remember the episode because I do remember reaching out to you after that. And I agree, like us as children, we have that beautiful innocence about ourselves. And as, we start to grow up and live our life, we have been conditioned in many different ways. I mean, how many times perhaps young women, young girls, and have been told, go and give that person a kiss goodbye, even though they perhaps don't want to. Oh, be a good girl, be nice. And that person, like I remember for me as a kid going, no, I don't want to do that, but I had to, right? That was the conditioning. I had to be the nice girl. I had to be the good girl. I had to be the girl that didn't make any hassles and just did what she was told. And so, growing up, then there's part of that conditioning. I'm not saying exactly it comes straight from that particular incident, but it shows you that building of, okay, next time I perhaps don't fight back as much in arguing because I don't want to make a scene. And I am a recovering people pleaser as well, so that's been a really big thing. And there comes to a point in our lives where for me definitely it's been like, is this my life? Is this it? Like, I'm happy I have a beautiful family and everything else, but surely there's more to this. And it starts planting these seeds of everything else. And again, because our intuition is always communicating with us, it's whether we are listening or not. And in particular, as you mentioned with the incident with your son's daycare, and I've been there myself with my children, and when I look back going, I wish I listened to my intuition. That was actually my intuition talking on reflection. And I think even then, that's the beautiful moments of how was that coming to you, so you can have that awareness. And number two, perhaps, at some point we've gone a different path because we're berating ourselves for not listening to our intuition, but how can we still give ourselves grace for that? How can we still give ourselves grace and knowing that it's okay with what's happened in the decisions that perhaps has led up for you to reflect back, but how can you give yourself grace so going forward you can have that awareness for how that intuition goes forth when everyone else around you is telling, no, it's fine. but you know, perhaps there's got to be a different way forward. And, you know, I've had that with, I mean, particularly my son. My son was diagnosed with ADHD and autism at the age of 4. So we had quite a number of different meetings, conversations, discussions when it came originally at childcare, and, you know, going forth and really advocating. And it continued very much into kindergarten when he first started school, and he's in year 2 now with his twin sister. So, you know, it's been a wonderful year. But, you know, there's been many different times when I've even reflected back, I wish I said something or did something at that time, because I knew my intuition was telling me something, and everyone else telling me, no, it's all right, it's okay. And I listened to that instead, and had to give myself grace for that, and had to give myself that compassionate love, and knowing that going forward, I know what my intuition's telling me. I know what my intuition's going to be communicating with me, how it may communicate with me. And for me at those times, did I not do anything because of my own fear and my own conditioning? And for me, it was, because I grew up as the good girl. I was the straight A student. I did all my homework. The only time I was probably in a principal's office was if I was helper for the day, not because I had done anything wrong. And I found myself, when I was getting phone calls and having to go to the principal's office for my son, that there was that good girl that didn't feel like she could speak up at first. And I was like, no, I can still be a good girl. I can be a good girl in a reimagined way that's actually in an advocate. That's the word I'm trying, in a way that I can advocate for my son and allow it to be of education and research and co-creative space, so we can make sure that there is everything together for both parties, for all parties involved, and not just going, oh, no, here's the young Stacey that is a little bit scared that she's going to get in trouble. So, but that was my own journey that I had to go through as well. So,
yeah. And I think what you said before about how our intuition talks to us, because there's sort of like this whole, we say you got to think with your head or your heart. It's like, you know, if anyone follows human design, it's like we actually make decisions with different parts of our body. And I'm sacral. So it's like that deep, guttural yes or no, like, and it's like, if I can just pause for a second and allow my body to respond. So it doesn't come from my head and it doesn't come from my heart. And it's like, why, you know, someone's like, you can't make a decision on a feeling. And it's like, absolutely, you can make a decision. You know, why are you allowed to make a decision only on, you know, why is only the head correct? Why is the mind only correct? Because for some, that's not where the clarity sits. It sits in different spaces. And I just, it's like when I can listen to that, and it's like, it feels wrong. And it's like, that should be enough to say that this doesn't feel right.
Definitely. Look, and we've also got to take into account that our nervous systems know before our brain. Like, our brain and our nervous system communicate with each other, but our nervous system actually communicates more to the brain than our brain does to the nervous system, you know. And then we've also got this beautiful heart brain. If anyone's followed the Heart Math Institute, and they've got studies on showing how, you know, the heart with its 40,000 neurons in such complex but beautifully close by, because of its small space compared to the brain, that it actually has its own heart brain. And studies have shown that the heart has responded before the brain has. And so I think it's also really important to know, okay, well, at the time we're trying to listen to our nervous system, how is our nervous system at that moment? You know, it's okay to be dysregulated. It's not like, let's make sure we're calm and regulated all the time. But if our nervous system has a sense of safety within it, so a sense of connection, support, grounding, it doesn't necessarily have to be calm, but if it has that sense of safety, we're going to be more open to wanting to receive the intuitive guidance, right? And so when we have that feeling, if we have a sense of safety within our nervous system at the time, we may still be nervous. We can have both at the same time. But if there's that openness of safety, then there's that openness of that channel of our own intuitive intelligence, as I call it, our own intuitive gifts, right? Our own intuition that's communicating with us. And we're more likely to take notice of it listen to it, you know, rather than perhaps what our dysregulated nervous system state is telling us, because that's, you know, when we're in a dysregulated state, if we're in a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, where we're in a state of wanting to perhaps be in survival, right? Our nervous system goes into those states to protect us, and that's a part of everyday life. But if we're stuck in that state, or we're very heavily in a dysregulated state, we're not listening to anything else but what is the threat or perceived threat in front of us. So I think the beautiful part when people have that feeling, and I call that in terms of that clairsentience, that feeling just within themselves, and you got claircognizance, is they just know, you know, we're without logic of the brain, or, you know, needing to know behind the answers. We just know. And then you've got clairaudience, where you might hear things, and then you have clairvoyance, where you see things. And, you know, for me, I'm claircognizant. I just know. And sometimes I don't have any other reasoning behind it, but I just know within myself, this is the direction I need to go, or this is what I now need to do, followed by that feeling. And when people, as their dominant clair to receive their intuition, being that claircognizance or clairsentience, we will quite often doubt ourselves, because it doesn't seem to be the most common ones that we may, you know, feel like we get that extra validation. If we see something, then perhaps it's that extra validation to our brain to want to go by it or hear it. But to feel it and to know it, you know, which perhaps most of us are, and that's why we second guess it. But it's so powerful and so amazing at the same time.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm like really trying with my son to kind of, you know, to hear him and to trust him. And, you know, there are times where we have to think about their safety, and there are things that we kind of, there are environments to do things, but it's like, when they're expressing their needs, or trying to express in a way like that they don't want to do something, there could be a reason. And I think eating is quite a common one too. And I remember in my 20s even going to a conference where you eat all the time. You eat breakfast, you eat snack, you eat lunch. And I didn't want to eat dinner because we'd been eating all day. You've been around food all day. Like, I don't always necessarily eat so much, but you just see it everywhere. And you're constantly being asked if you've eaten, and you just feel like, kind of sticky and gross. Anyway, and I said I didn't want to eat dinner. It's like, I'm like 22 or 23 or something. And my dad's like, you got to eat dinner because it's dinner time. And I was like, but I'm not hungry. And he's like, but you got to eat dinner because it's dinner time. And I was like, this is what we do with kids. It's breakfast time, it's lunch time, it's dinner time. And it's like, sometimes they're not hungry. And then sometimes it's not a meal time and they are hungry. So it's like, eat when your body is telling you that you want to eat. If your body's constantly telling you to eat, we have a problem. If your body's never telling you to eat, we have a problem. But actually, if you let go with that, what a healthy way to have a relationship with your body. And it's like, I've had to untrain myself from that. It's just like, food is there, I must eat. And it's as opposed to going, how do I feel and what do I want? And I, you know, that's probably a different cue, but it's just like, but we know ourselves. And I think we're taught to not know ourselves.
That's it. Yeah. And you're right. And as us as adults, we basically go on a journey of unlearning and relearning.
Yeah. And reconnecting to us. And you're the expert on you, right? And I think we see this in medical the most, is like you're being told what is right for your body from a medical standpoint, or what is for your best for your health. And I'm very happy to go in head to head with a personal trainer or a nutritionist or a naturopath or a doctor and say, no, like that's not right for me. I'm not going to resist medical treatment, but it's like, but there are times that people knew something was wrong and said it doesn't feel right, and then they've like taken off the wrong limb or something. You know, like I knew that wasn't right. You cut off my wrong arm. That's extreme, but you know, they're telling you what's wrong and we ignore them.
Yeah. Well, I had that when I was pregnant with my second daughter. I had emergency C-section for my first daughter, and my eldest two are just under 2 years apart. And I remember I did want to try for a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. And I was getting told a lot of no's at the beginning. And, you know, my background has been in policing as a detective. So I do a lot of research. I do, you know, I can look into a lot of things. So I, you know, had researched it all and obviously was taking into account whatever happened throughout the pregnancy. But I was like, well, all these indicators said I'm okay for here to still keep going, I don't need to book in for a C-section at that, at 37 weeks, I wanted to see if I could progress to have a vaginal birth. And, I listened to my intuition, and it did happen for my second daughter. And I remember having to advocate for myself for that, because, a lot of doctors at that time were saying no. And I was taking into account what they said, but I also was like, you're only telling me one side, which is your side of what you want me to do. If you tell me both sides, then I can make an informed decision. And I think that's the thing, right? Allowing us to make an informed decision, and, taking in, what experts are saying, but we ultimately have the end say for ourselves. And that was always the case when I did my investigations. As a detective, I specialised in sexual assault investigations, and as much as I want to take a job all the way to trial, if my victim was not in a state to do that at that time, I'm not going to push her. I'm not going to force her. I'm going to do everything I can. So whenever she changed her mind, everything would still be in place and could, would be able to support her in the investigation going forward. But it's my ego wanting her to go forward. If she's not at that point to do that, I can't force her. Because at the end of the day, we go to trial and she doesn't turn up, nothing's going to go forward. So I need her to be supporting herself to be able to get to that state, because it's not an easy journey. It's a very traumatic journey for someone going through the whole process. They need to feel that they have the support to do that going forth. And whenever they have the time, we're very grateful here in New South Wales. There's no statute of limitations when it comes to sexual assault investigations. So whenever they're ready, they come back and we can start from exactly where they left off. So
that is quite a journey for you to go from the police force to where you are now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because people go, oh my God, that's actually two really different areas. But for me, I always saw it as a natural progression. I've always been one that really wanted to support people and really wanting to be, and it sounds weird to say it, and it's not that I hope that people are in the state of needing that support and being in trauma, but I always wanted to be able to help people when they were at their most raw and vulnerable state, to ensure that they were given the right support. I'm a big person in making sure that people in positions of authority don't abuse their power. And unfortunately, when people are in their most vulnerable states is when that can also happen. So I really wanted to make sure that seemed at the time, especially when I was a teenager, that was my purpose. And so I joined the police academy, and I actually wanted to be a forensic police officer, and that was my way that I was going to be able to help people. But as I was in uniform and going to different jobs, the detectives kind of saw my work a lot because of different type of jobs that they may need to take over because of the seriousness of it. And they saw all the work I got to do and sort of went, Stacey, we think you'd actually be a really great detective. And so I went into the detectives quite early. I was only in uniform for a couple of years and went down that route. And I felt naturally drawn to the sexual assault investigations and the coronial investigations, which are deaths that are reportable to the coroner for many different ways that people may die and leave this earth. And when you are investigating those type of investigations, you are surrounded by people in various states of trauma. And so with that, I sort of had this curiosity within myself to go, how can I best support them so they feel safe enough to tell me what happened? Because I need to know their story and at times need their statement. And if they don't feel safe enough to tell me, then they're not going to tell me all the information. And they're already in a state of trauma. So that also can affect memory recall as it is. So I need them to, even though they might still be dysregulated, if there's that element of safety to be with someone else and tell them their story, then they're less likely to withhold information intentionally. And people do, because And it's not a bad thing on them. They might withhold it because they fear being judged. No one's going to believe me. It's one person against the other. And, that person told me that no one's going to believe what I said. And again, this conditioning that's already been placed through, or perhaps even in coronial matters, like, they didn't want the person who's passed away to be judged for anything that may have happened as well. So there's so many things that are happening behind the scenes that I'm not aware of that I need to take into account. So I went, well, this all happens with your nervous system. So I just started studying. And, again, the detective in me, I just started studying and I got really, really interested in it. And then I realized, oh God, I need this for myself as well.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of, blossomed through there. I did quite I studied for over a decade on it and then went, you know what? This is where, like, the natural progression for me was, now I can support people this way. So in my mind, I think it's a natural progression, but I can see, like, when someone goes, oh, you went from this to this, how does that even work?
I think because we tend to see the police force as that kind of quite black and white, even though, detectives are quite curious. I mean, I speak from my uncle is a detective sergeant in the UK, and, like, my mum said and another friend worked in the police, in the prison system, and it just sometimes can get a bit
definitely
guilty or not guilty. Like, it's just,
yes, and people's past experiences of perhaps different interactions that they've had with police officers, and there's still more learning that needs to be done, definitely. And I like to hopefully think that my time in there supporting people in that way, that hopefully it can have been of a supportive and high vibrational impact that allows the beautiful ripples out in the field of the people that I interacted with, that perhaps can be of support in their own lives.
It totally makes sense. Like, when you think about it, you're like, people who go into that profession must have a sense of justice, must have a sense of, like, what is right, like what is right. There must be that feeling. I think we've just been taught that there's facts and there's evidence and there's, but, any of these, like, crime shows and detective shows we love, they follow an inkling, right? They do have an intuition. They just, apart from that show Medium, we couldn't call it that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's right. Like, because I mean, those type of investigations that I would investigate, there has to be a bit of flexibility, because you're never going to make a sexual assault victim and force them to come to court, right? It's what good would that do? It's not going to actually benefit anyone. And if anything, it's actually going to be a detriment to everyone involved, right? You can have a victim that's going to be so traumatized and being forced that they perhaps don't share all of the story. And as a result, they haven't had a chance to be on a platform to share all of their truth when they were ready for it. And I've taken that away. And then you've also got the fact of all of that may happen. And as a result, all of the information hasn't been heard. And someone can be found not guilty that perhaps if they knew all of the information, it could have been a different way, and you can't take them back to trial for that. Once it's done, it's done. And, so there's in those type of investigations, there's always been a bit of a flexibility about it.
Yeah. And so you've written the first book and the second book. So what led you to writing a third book?
Well, the third book, interesting enough, I was in India in 2024. I was in there on retreat, and I remember the first night, and I was at the beautiful house that we're at, Levy and Rose, and I looked up, and it was a beautiful clear sky, dark with beautiful, stars, and I saw this like waxing crescent moon on the right side, and had this beautiful outline of the full moon, which is why for my cover, that's what it is. And it really spoke to me. It spoke as if it was speaking just to me, but I know it would be to everyone, but I knew it was just speaking to me. And, it was like, here I am, a part of me, and I need to actually accept and hold all of me. And that first night for the retreat, we went into the shala, and we were asked, like, what is your intention for being here? And straight away, like my intuition was speaking to me, and it was like to give yourself permission to receive your own love. And I was like, wow, yes, because I'm not accepting all of myself. I'm only accepting parts of myself, the parts that I like, the parts that I want people to see, not all of me. And I was like, well, how am I going to do this? And it was like, you need to give yourself grace. You need to give yourself permission to not only receive it, but embody it. Allow it to seep into all parts of you, into your bones, into the cells and everything, and allow that be a way of, don't just give yourself grace for the part that you want everyone to like and see, but for all parts of you. And it was a very big learning journey for me, and one that I, again, on reflection, realized it's actually been something that I've been on a journey on for many years, but it was me actually being able to put it all together after that experience. So I came back from India and I wrote out the manuscript for it and spent the year, you know what it's like when you're an author and you're editing and you're doing all the things, and, really just sort of, my service is my medicine. My books I write are for me as much as they are to be of service to others. And, I don't share with other people or write my work to other people if I haven't actually done it myself. And so this book is sharing the journey, and not steps so much because they all intertwine to each other, but different layers of how we can incorporate and allow ourselves and give ourselves permission to embody grace, which is ultimately allowing ourselves to give ourselves permission to receive our own love. So
it's so beautiful, and I love the cover, and I love how it comes to be. And I agree. You have to really and some people sometimes ask, why a book? And I've got more books on the horizon as well, and like, why books? Like, and I just think, I don't know, it does come quite quickly to like that, and it does feel like a medium that, they're like, why don't you just do a podcast? Like, why make it into an audiobook? Why don't you just do a podcast about it? Why don't you just YouTube? There's something about that long form and really being able to tell that journey and that experience and to go through that steps. And, books are sort of the way we learn. So
definitely
what we've known and what we've learned from, and they have this life of their own, don't they? That once
they do, once they're out in the world, they're their own little baby that's been birthed. And look, and I think it's really beautiful, the fact that we have these different ways that we can receive information. I love the fact that we can have audio and we can have visual, and especially now in a neurodiverse family, we have a beautiful blend of neurodivergent and neurotypical in our house, and how we can, what's best on interpreting and receiving information. And books is still another way of how we can receive information. I love holding a book and reading, and I will underline and I will highlight and I will write notes, because that's one way that I actually love receiving information. And when I'm doing that, it's this beautiful way of, I'm not just reading it and it just, as soon as I finish reading, it just is back into the ether. It's this way that's actually embedding in my own body. And, again, for someone else, it could be something visual or hearing the words from an audiobook. But there's so much magic that also happens in books, or, reading in ebook, Kindle form, right? It's just another way that we can receive information. And it might be one of the oldest ones compared to different forms that we may use now, but it doesn't mean we need to dismiss it. So that's why I love books, and I love writing. So why not do a book?
I think the process of the way that that information comes out, it definitely downloads differently, and
definitely
then the way that it goes through the editing and then the ideas and the back and forth thing, it is a process, as we both know. But
definitely,
I've loved what you shared today, Stacey. But I do want to ask you as well, and I think some of the work that you're doing is coming out through this, but how are you living a life that you love now?
It has definitely been being kinder to myself, allowing myself to give myself presence, to be in humility of that, and to be in loving action of that to myself. And when I'm allowing myself and supporting myself in that way, I can allow myself to enjoy my life enjoy my life with my kids, enjoy the work that I do, enjoy having beautiful conversations, and knowing that, like, what a beautiful way to live life when you can feel yourself open to the world, where you feel the heart is open and that you feel that the heart and the brain are in this beautiful congruence with each other. There doesn't need to be any fighting, that they can actually work together.
Yeah. And I really see the way that you're doing your work is that people are getting to come back to who they are and what they want. And like you said, unlearning to learn, or to learning to
Yeah.
unlearn, or to
Unlearn and
to learn from
relearn.
yourself, and that we can
Yeah,
be our own teacher.
that's right. And this beautiful remembrance of ourselves. You know, there's sometimes for some people, and it has for me, of like, we lost ourselves along the way. And then we go, who am I? Who am I besides a mother? Who am I, you know, at that point, besides a police officer? There's more to me than that, but I actually don't know what that is right now. And it's this beautiful journey to be able to reconnect and remember parts of you, which again, like that beautiful waxing crescent moon with this outline of the full moon, is like, there's actually so much more to us. We just need to take time to allow that reconnection back to ourselves and actually find so much more about us that we perhaps have forgotten or dismissed or didn't even realize was there.
And I do think India is a wonderful place to do that, because it removes all the anchors and all the like any semblance of like connection to what we know.
Definitely.
It's a land where, yeah, it really strips back. So you kind of like, whoa, okay, who am I in this place? I think it is a wonderful land for that, and a very spiritual and connected place as well. So they I think, allow that openness. So thank you for today, and thank you for again sharing your lovely words to me. It really means a lot. How can we connect with you? How can we find you? How can we get this wonderful book?
Yes, so I'm mostly on Instagram, so you can connect with me there, _ Stacey Webb, Stacey with an EY. I also have my website, which is www.staceywebb.com.au. Embodied Grace, the book, and there are a set of cards that can be purchased as well, some beautiful reminder cards on a wooden stand. They are available for pre-order at the moment on my website, but you can also pre-order the book at any of your online major bookstores, or if you love supporting, which I do, beautiful independent bookstores, you can also get them to order it in for you if you're happy to wait for that to happen.
Yes, go and ask your bookstore. I love it. And Stacey Webb with 2 B's.
With 2 B's.
2 B's. Yes. Thank you so much for today, Stacey, and congrats on another book.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening, lovely one. I hope this has inspired you to dream big and start creating a life you love today. If you love what you're hearing, don't forget to follow and rate on Spotify, and rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. It helps other awesome people to find this podcast and get motivated and inspired as well. Want to stay connected? Come and join the Live a Life You Love group on Facebook, or connect with me on Instagram, emmalovell.au. The same as my website, but all the details are in the show notes, lovely. I'll see you next episode for more inspiration, motivation, and freedom seeking. Now go out there and live a life you love.